Hello everybody, it's Will, or hashtag baking actor. Today, I'm going to show you how to make an Italian lemon ricotta cookie. It's really simple, and you need about the basic same ingredients as you do for any other cookie to start. So, let's get started. First, you cream the butter. I'm just going to cream just a little bit to get started. Until it kind of gets fluffy. There you go. Great. Then I've got 1 3/4 cup of sugar. In most cookie recipes, you do 2. So this is 1 and just a little bit less than 3/4 cup of sugar. Granulated sugar. I'm only using granulated sugar in this one. Do about half. Start it. Do the second half. Get it going. You want your butter to be pretty room temperature so that this can start. You can smell that butter. There's nothing quite like that smell. Alright, so it's starting to ball up a little bit because of the sugar. And what I've done is I've zested 1 lemon. So I'm using the whole zest of the lemon and putting it in here at this time. And then we're going to mix it just a little bit more and get that incorporated. Save your lemon, you need it. That's looking pretty good. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is start to get our wet ingredients and make this a little bit more wet so when we put our dry ingredients in, we're good to go. Alright, so I've got a tablespoon of vanilla extract. I know that sounds like a lot, but the ricotta doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. It's just a texture kind of thing. So you need a lot of flavor in this cookie. All right, and now here's my secret ingredient. These cookies didn't really stand alone really well. You can skip this step if you want to, if you don't have it. This is almond extract, and I'm putting a tablespoon of almond extract in here. I always think almond at Christmas time for some reason, I don't know. It's like a lot of cookies have almond in it, so it makes me think of Christmas. Oh, it smells beautiful. All right. So here's the secret ingredient is your ricotta cheese. Ricotta comes in a 15-ounce container, and so you need just 1 container. If you get a double, which I did the last time, just make sure that you measure out pretty specifically with a scale because you don't want the cookies to get too moist or you don't want them to be too dry. So we're going to put this whole 15-ounce container of ricotta cheese in here. And then start to mix that together. All right, so we've got the ricotta incorporated into the butter and sugar and vanilla and almond, okay? Now, the next thing, we have to have our binder. So this is our egg part. These are room temperature, and I'm just gonna do 1 at a time, theoretically. 1, looking right. And then 2. There you go. I like to go slow until the yolk gets broken, and then once it gets broken, you can speed up a little bit. All right, so at this point, I just want to show you what the batter looks like because the first couple of times I made these, I was like, ugh, this looks really weird. But because there's so much air kind of in the ricotta, it looks a little bit grainy. Can you see that? It looks a little grainy. It won't look that way by the time you make the cookies, but I just wanted to let you know that at this moment it looks a little grainy, so don't be turned off. They are delicious. Now to the dry ingredients. What I've got here is 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour that I've sifted, and then 2 teaspoons of baking soda. Not baking powder, baking soda. And then 3/4 teaspoons of salt. You can probably go with a whole teaspoon of salt if you want because the ricotta cheese doesn't have a lot of flavor. It's just a texture thing. So you gotta really add a lot of flavor to these cookies. Okay? Now, I'm just gonna whisk this in, then incorporate. So turn this on slow. I like to do a 1/4 cup at a time, like any other cookie. Let it get incorporated. If you throw it all in at the same time and turn this on high, it's gonna go like that, and you don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna get the rest of this in and I'll show you what it looks like and the next step. All right, so I got all my flour incorporated into the batter here, and this is the struggle. The struggle, it is real, right? Get it all kind of off the sides, how I like to do it, and then cover this for a minimum of 2 hours in the refrigerator. It needs to chill. All that butter in there and the ricotta are so sticky that the dough, you could make drop cookies now probably, but we want them to be a little bit more uniform. So I like to cover it for 2 hours in the refrigerator. What you could also do if you don't have 2 hours, you know, if you don't have 4 hours to make this recipe right now, another thing that I've done is you can make this dough at night and then bake the next day, because it just needs to sit for at least 2 hours, and it can sit for up to a couple days in the refrigerator. I would never let it go that long because I like cookies. So anyway, I'm gonna let this sit in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours, and then I'll show you what's next. So I've let this chill for about 3 hours. I'm gonna take a little ice cream scooper. This is a small scooper. It's about, I'm gonna say, a 1/16 of a cup, probably a tablespoon, something like that. All right, and I've lined baking sheets with parchment paper, and my dough, if you can see here, is pretty firm. Okay, so just stick your scooper in here, round it off, and drop. Now, the warmer this gets after being out of the refrigerator, the harder it'll be to get out of here. So what I recommend is, as you go along, put these about at least 2 to 3 inches apart, right? And even if they come apart outside of here, just mound them back up. They'll swell up together whenever they bake. Totally. So I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. I want to do my cookie rotation where I start on top and then go on to the bottom. They need to be cooked about 12 minutes until the bottoms start to brown pretty good. So I'm going to get these done, and then I'll show you what's next. All right, so here's what they look like when you're all done. And I've got my first 2 pans in the oven, but I've got at least 15 more minutes before I'm gonna need this again, because it has to cool on the sheet. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and scrape down the sides, because I've had to use the side a little bit to scrape off. And then I'm gonna put back on my cellophane here and stick it back in the fridge until I'm ready to use it again. So to keep this chilled, it's very important that this be chilled. Otherwise, it's just too sticky a mess. I mean, this is really sticky, but it just like turns into mush. So stick this back in the fridge, and then I'll show you what happens when they come out of the oven. All right, so here's my first little batch, and they're just brown on the bottom. They were in for about 11 minutes and 28 seconds, I guess, to be exact. So what we're gonna do is let them cool completely. I'm gonna fill my pan back up with dough and just keep my cookie mill going here, and then I'll show you what's next, which is a lemon glaze. It's very delicious, and it brings out all those flavors that we put into the cakey cookie. Yeah. I'll show you in a second. Okay, so the agonizing part is letting these cool. But remember that lemon we zested about, I don't know, 3 hours ago or so? Here's my trick. Take the lemon and roll it like this, and that will help all the juices release in the pulp from the sides underneath before you juice it. Then just cut it in half like that and juice. So I got both halves of my lemon juiced, and I don't like to put the lemon in the refrigerator before you juice it, because you want it as all the juices not to have congealed or anything. Make sure that they're able to get out of the pulp. Okay. Now I've confected. I've sifted 1.25 cups of confectioner sugar, and that's about as much as we need. But don't pour all the lemon juice in at one time. Just pour a little bit in. and whisk it in. So you get a glaze. Before I said icing, this is kind of an icing, but it's more of a glaze, not necessarily an icing. All right, obviously not enough yet. Okay, so we've got a pretty runny glaze here, and this is the part that will be great if you have kids, because they can totally help you ice the cookies. You've made your glaze here, and now what we're gonna do is, if you want it a little more runny than that, you're welcome to do that. I like that consistency because we're going to take each individual cookie and ice it. Like so. And then put sprinkles on top. And they look so cute and delicious. Can you see the sprinkles? Maybe not. All right, but I want to show you the inside of this cookie. It is so flaky and cakey. It's such a great treat. If you like what I'm doing, make sure that you subscribe. I'll have all the recipe posted on my website, willemreed.com/bakingactor. And don't forget to tell me what you think. Leave a comment, like, share, tell your friends. If you have a better recipe, let me know. I want to try as many as I can and get it exactly right. So, I'll see you next time. That's good.